Today I'm going to be ranking all 33 heroes in Marvel Rivals based off of how fun they are to play. I will be trying to account for current power level just a little bit. For example, Hela is a very strong character right now. Obviously, it's fun just to run people over, clicking people in the face on Hela. I'm going to do my best to look at it through just looking at their base kits and how fun I think they'll be in like any meta with any power level. If I do rank your favorite hero lower than you think they should be rated, by all means, give me the pitch on it in the comments. I'd love to open up a discussion and we really get to the bottom of this. There's a lot of fun characters in this game. Some of the fun ones are just going to be ranked low. It's just what it is when almost every character is as fun as they are. At number 33, the least fun character in Marvel Rivals has got to be Storm. Storm is a flying character that when she flies around, she gives her team an AoE boost. The tornado effect grants your team a movement boost. The lightning effect grants your team a damage boost. But the thing about Storm is her kit doesn't necessarily like synergize with each other. Like she's a flyer, so you'd expect like the best way to play her to, you know, use roofs and stuff for cover. Get high up so you can get the angles on your enemies. But if you get too high up, then your AoE effect will no longer apply to your teammates. So it's a very strange kit in my opinion. On top of that, her main primary fire is a slow moving projectile. And a lot of times when flyers have these projectiles, they have, you know, some AoE effect. Like if you miss your shot by a little bit, you'll still do splash damage. And you can hit more than one person with it. But there is no AoE damage on Storm. On top of that, you can't headshot with her. Like I truly just hate the primary fire on this character, which has made her like really not fun to play. Her ultimate is fun and really good. I'll give her that. Basically, you go underground, you turn into a tornado, and you can kill like 1 or 2 people every single time, guaranteed. But that wasn't enough for me to move her out of the bottom spot. Next up, I have Black Widow. Black Widow is the scope sniper character of this game. And in a game where, you know, people are zipping and zapping and they're all around you, every hero in the game just has insane movement abilities and stuff like that. When you're sitting there scoped on Black Widow, you can feel like you're at a decent disadvantage. Her other ability, she has a kick just to get people off of her, but it's on a 15-second cooldown. And to be fair, she can sprint around and jump around, which does make her decently mobile. Just you can't do damage while you're doing that, right? Her ult is a big cannon where you can shoot it at the enemies and it slows them. It gets them stuck in the mud. It's pretty all right. If you're really good at positioning and you're really good at clicking heads, you definitely can make Black Widow work on some points. Like she's not an unplayable hero. I just feel like in a game where there's so many cool hero designs and so many interesting things that you can do and get away with, the character that just sits there and aims is always going to be towards the bottom. Also, compared to like Overwatch's Widowmaker, I think she's missing a little bit of that like satisfaction level of just like ripping someone's head off in one shot. And I'm not saying they should buff her. I'm not saying they should make her a one-shot headshot. Definitely not. I love that Black Widow is like not very good. So I think I'm just fine where she is. I'm glad that the sniper character is one of the least fun characters in the game. I think it's a good spot for this kind of character. Next hero, this is going to be a controversial one, I have a feeling. Some of you are going to believe that this character is much higher on this list, but for me personally, at 31, I do have Penny Parker. Admittedly, like Penny is the one character in the game that I feel like I haven't given a decent chance on. I just truly don't feel like she's the character for me. She basically places a bunch of nets everywhere. She places the mines in the net. She has crazy like trap potential. The webs can also be used for movement around the map, which I think is pretty cool. Or you can use them to just huck at your enemies and stun them. For me, it's just not personally what I'm looking for in games like these. If you're more of the I'm gonna trap you kind of person, then like I'm sure you'll find her enjoyable. But for me, it's just like, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it when I was playing her. I'll tell you that right now. Next up, I do have Rocket Raccoon, the least fun support on the list. And this is the first hero that I think on the fun level, he's just like mid, you know, like the other characters I would say were unfun, but Rocket Raccoon is just mid. He could either shoot heals at his teammates or shoot bullets at the enemies. Like he's a very standard support character. He has a beacon that he can throw slowdown, which throws down armor for his teammates, or it revives someone if somebody dies, which I think is very good. His ultimate is a big damage boost. Like, I mean, I don't know. The character's just like basic support. While there's so many heroes in this game that's just like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before in an FPS. Like Rocket Raccoon is very standard. His one saving grace I'll give him is the movement. He has 2 dashes and he can wall climb, so you can kind of chain together the wall climb and the dashes to get to some insane verticality and get up on roofs that a lot of characters struggle to get on, or maybe can't even possibly do it. The over-the-top movement combined with his small hitbox does make him hard to kill, but like I've been saying, I think Rocket Raccoon is more of just a standard support character. Nothing too crazy, which the fact that a character like that is this low on the list, I think speaks to just how many fun heroes there are, right? At 29, I do have Punisher. If Rocket Raccoon is the standard support, Punisher might be the standard DPS. He has an automatic weapon. He's kind of like the basic soldier character of this video game. If you enjoy just putting your crosshair on the enemy's head and just tracking them as you laser them down, I'm sure you'll find Punisher enjoyable. He has a passive that lets you see the enemies as they go around the corner. Like if you see the enemy and then they go around the corner, you can see them through the walls, which is pretty cool. He has a smoke grenade that you can kind of combine with his passive and throw it, and so you can like shoot the enemies through the smoke grenade with it. He can turn into a turret, which like in my games, like 90% of the time, I was just running around just using my regular weapon instead of going into turret mode. I feel like the mobility is probably better 9 times out of 10 versus good players. Although if you need 1 or 2 kills like now to like turn a team fight that you're losing, maybe it can be a good option, like a high risk, high reward situation. Or if you have a chance to like set it up before the enemies come around the corner, then they peek into you and they're just kind of screwed. You melt the tanks with them, you know, stuff like that. The turret's fine. The ultimate just makes you better at doing what you were already doing. It's just a better gun that, you know, this time it does more damage. It shoots missiles with it. Like it's just crazy. You can really melt people. People pretty much have to hide from you in it. So, you know, it's pretty good. I actually bumped Punisher up a few spots while making this video. I realized that like you can like chain the zip lines together on certain points. Like if a point has been going on for a while and you have like 2 or 3 zip lines down, either to get to the point or to, you know, navigate around the point, it could actually make Punisher one of the more mobile characters in the game. But the weird thing is the point has to have been going on for a while. Like if you set up all your zip lines for one point and then the enemy team captures it, those zip lines are no longer valuable to you. So it's kind of a weird situation. By the way, he does have a shotgun, which is very good at like taking out tanks. It absolutely just chunks people down at close range. Super underrated. I feel like not enough people use the shotgun considering how good it is. Next up, I do have the best duelist character in the game. I do have Hela. If you're good at aiming on this current patch, you will dominate every single game you play with Hela. She is just so good. The fact that she 2-shot headshots or 3-shot body shots is just wild. She has a decent escape tool in the bird, which basically you can use to reposition anywhere you want. You can't get healing while you're in the bird, so you know it's maybe not a peak escape tool, but the fact that a hit scan character like this has one at all, I think is a little broken. She also has a stun that's, you know, very good at getting people off of you if anyone dives you at all. If that wasn't broken enough, she has a projectile right click that you can throw at people that does some splash damage. It's honestly probably harder to hit than just landing a headshot and does like barely more damage. So like if someone's ever on your screen, you should just be trying to click them with your primary fire. But you know, I tend to like weave in the right clicks whenever I think someone's about to come around the corner, or I'll throw it at like shields or something, try to like, you know, whittle down a Doctor Strange shield or something like that. And if the base part of her kit wasn't broken enough, she has one of the best ultimates in the game. She basically instantly gets 1,000 HP, flies up into the air and shoots projectiles at the enemies that 2-shot them. It's just crazy, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. And so what you could do on this is you can like basically run into their backline as if you were playing like a flanker character, try to get a kill, and then if at any point you're going to die, you just ult, and then as long as you kill them with your ult, which you probably will, or at least the team fight will be over one way or the other by the time your ult's over, you will just end up living. Like it's truly crazy. She has 2 passives as well, where she can can float. I don't know why she needed that. And every time you eliminate an enemy, and it doesn't have to be a final blow, a bird spawns on their corpse and blows up and does damage to more players. Like, what are we doing? In Diamond Elo in this game, you can ban characters, and she gets banned literally like every single game, like no matter what. I don't think I played a game where Hello wasn't banned. Truly busted, truly busted. This is a list about being fun. I think she's more fun than the characters I've listed already. They will nerf her. They will definitely be nerfing this character. And if she's more of a middle of the pack DPS, I don't see her being like that fun to play. Right now, the fun of playing her is just the fact that you absolutely just dominate your enemies no matter what the situation is. At 27, I have another very, very strong DPS. I do have Hawkeye. Hawkeye is the bow and arrow hero in Rivals. Unlike Black Widow, Hawkeye does one-shot headshot, but the trick is, the gimmick is, you have to track the enemy for a little bit to charge up your bow, basically. There's like a little number on your screen at all times, and from what I can tell, you have to get it to about like 60-ish charge to kill a 250 health character in one-shot headshot. So it's not like crazy. I think what they could do to nerf Hawkeye is like make this charge a little slower, make it so you have to track the enemies just a little bit more. But you know, I like a bow and arrow character, you know, I love playing Hanzo in Overwatch, and so I really thought I was going to like absolutely love Hawkeye. But I think the reason he's not higher is just because I don't necessarily love his kit outside of the bow, which sounds crazy. His E is he shoots a hypersonic arrow that slows enemies. It can knock flyers down from the sky, which is pretty cool. His shift is like a melee similar to Black Widow, where he basically melees and boops anyone off of him. It's really good in those situations where you're getting dove by like a Black Panther or Spider-Man or something like that. His ultimate Hunter's Sight lets you capture the after images of your enemies, and it basically lets you shoot them where they just were, which is insane. Also, when you're ulting, your bow charges very quick. You don't have to track the enemies anymore, so you can just spit out 100 charge shots at people. It's good. It's good. It's definitely a good ult, but like, I don't know. I personally enjoy playing Hanzo more than him. He doesn't tickle my bow and arrow itch as much as I would want him to for some reason. I never would have thought I would have had this next hero as high as I do. At 26, I have Scarlet Witch. When you play against her, when you're first trying out the game, you're like, what am I playing against? Why is this character auto-locking onto me? They're not actually that good. If you have good enough aim on the characters that require a little bit more mechanical skill, you're just gonna kill her. You're just gonna kill her faster than she can kill you. But holy, is Scarlet Witch not fun to play against bad players, bro. It is so fun just to fly around and zip around and just beam people to death. Like, I never, like, literally when I started making this video, I had her all the way towards the bottom. Playing her truly convinced me that this is a very fun hero. She has 2 shifts, which basically make you invincible, that you can use to just traverse the map and float around wherever you want. 1 second you're behind them, zapping them. The next second you're like on their side, and they're just like looking around everywhere, like, what's going on? How do I deal with this? And again, like, you know, she's not good versus good players. Don't get me wrong. Her stun orb that she throws, I don't know what it is about it, but I find that fun to use. You throw it at your enemies, and you can press the button again to activate it, and it basically creates an orb that stuns anybody in the orb. And so if you can kind of like think ahead to where they're going to be, if you can place it behind them when they're trying to back up, stuff like that, it can basically lead you to free kills. I don't know. I was having so much fun playing this character. Her ult is very hit or miss, and it's mostly miss, like, I won't lie. Basically this giant wipe attack, but it takes like 5-6 seconds for the actual detonation to happen. And so 9 times out of 10, the enemies are either just going to shoot you or they're going to hide from you. But I think if you're smart about it, you can get some value off of it. I think the key is to not go for like full team wipes, because like that's just never going to work against anybody with opposable thumbs. But if you just go for like a 1k or a 2k, or even, you know, even if you use it just to zone the enemies and force them off of the objective, stuff like that, I think it can be good. Scarlet Witch would soar up the ranks if they made her primary fire do a little bit more damage, but if they made it so you actually have to track the enemies. Like, how fun of a hero would that be? Like, that would be insane. If they made it like take a little bit more skill but have a little bit more damage, I don't know. Maybe make it so it can headshot too. I don't know. Just throwing out ideas out there. 25, I have Squirrel Girl. If Punisher and Black Widow are the more standard like hit scan characters, I think Squirrel Girl is probably the more standard projectile DPS. You know, kind of like the Junkrat type of character for this game. She shoots her little acorns that bounce off of the walls at the enemies. If you manage to hit them directly, correctly, they hit, bro. They hit. They can chunk down tanks very, very quickly. Her squirrel blockade is a stun that she can throw at the enemies, and her E basically reloads your gun and lets you use any of your other cooldowns within a short time frame. So the pattern that I was finding successful is basically shoot all of my acorns, throw my blockade, throw my stun at the enemies, press my E so I could use my abilities again, and then throw another blockade. And basically I wouldn't have to reload, and I got to throw 2 blockades at the enemies within a short amount of time. It just had super high potential for landing in like multiple kills for me. Her ult is this squirrel tsunami. It's a slow moving stampede of squirrels that is very, very, very dodgeable. In my head, whenever I first started playing Rivals, I assumed that the squirrel stampede one-shot killed you. It just moves so slowly that it was just so easy to dodge. I assumed that like the only way for it to be balanced is if it just one-shot you, but it doesn't. I think maybe you could argue it needs a little bit of a damage buff, but I might just be crazy. Maybe there are ways to use it in which you get guaranteed value off of it. If you make it like bounce multiple times like on the objective or something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's something here that I'm missing. But anyway, Squirrel Girl is just very fun. I would highly recommend her if you enjoy playing projectile DPS. 24, I have Moon Knight. If you've ever played against a Moon Knight, you probably hate Moon Knight. I know I do. His primary fire goes between the enemies. So if you're playing against a team that groups up in a ball, you just throw your primary fire at the enemies. They're just gonna bounce around between the enemies doing a shit ton of damage. You probably know Moon Knight for his Ankh, which when you throw it at enemies, it knocks them back a little bit, stuns them, and then you can throw your primary fire at the Ankhs, and the Ankh acts as like a thing for you to throw at so that your shots can do damage to anyone within the Ankh's radius, which basically means that in certain team fights, Moon Knight puts out more damage and does more than any other hero in the game. Truly is absurd. Like the things you do on Moon Knight are just crazy. I think the big counters to Moon Knight are like shield characters like Doctor Strange and Magneto. So if you see the enemy in your game doesn't have those characters and you're playing ranked, pull out the Moon Knight, bro. Pull out the Moon Knight and cheese them and just shoot the Ankh and farm them. I promise you'll have a grand old time. You can get your ultimate up like every single team fight if you know what you're doing with it. And the ultimate is basically just, you know, there's a lot of these kinds of ults in the game where you just like place a circle and it does damage in the circle. It's good. It's fine. Moon Knight also has a couple of movement abilities. He has a grapple. He can float when he's in the air. He has a double jump. Mobile character, has a little bit of everything. Overall, just a very solid DPS. Would recommend if you don't have like the best aim in the world, but you want to play DPS, you want to put out a ton of damage, this is probably the hero for you. At 23, this might be controversial. I don't know, but I haven't really enjoyed my time playing Iron Fist all that much. There are a few melee DPS in this game, and personally, I find Iron Fist to easily be the least enjoyable of the bunch. I think he's a character that you kind of need to put a moderate amount of time, probably more time than I put on him, to truly get the gist of how enjoyable he is. Iron Fist is probably the best or one of the best DPS in the game in 1v1 scenarios. Like if you see a squishy character in a dark alley and it's just you and them, you're probably going to come away with the kill there. My favorite of Iron Fist abilities is his Dragon's Defense. You can block pretty much anything in the game if you time the block correctly. And as soon as you finish the block, he goes into the stance where you can just fire out like a ton of punches within a short amount of time and do a bunch of damage. The block is, however, on a 15-second cooldown. But another thing I like about Iron Fist is every time you punch an enemy while this ability is on cooldown, it lowers the cooldown by 1 second, right? So like the kit centers around this block ability. The block transitions into punchy fast mode. Then every punch you land after the block is over, you reduce your cooldown on the next block. So if you really know what you're doing, you can absolutely just like pop off with this. Iron Fist can triple jump around the map. He can dash. He's a hyper mobile character for sure. And his ultimate just makes you go absolutely just batshit crazy on the enemies. If you're into this sort of thing, this could easily be your favorite hero. At 22, I have the second support to make the list. I do have Adam Warlock. The most success you're going to have on Adam is trying to do damage with him, I feel. You want to obviously be activating your heal on your allies whenever you see them low as much as possible. His Soul Bond ability is one of, if not the single best ability in the game. It basically makes it so all the allies within your range of the Soul Bond all get healed when you heal one of them, and the damage that any one of them takes gets dispersed amongst the other people within the Soul Bond. This makes it so everyone in the Soul Bond, you just can't burst them down. So if you time this ability correctly, if you time this ability like right before people are about to take damage, unless they use some big wipe ultimate, your team is pretty much invincible. You're not just going to die to regular shooting and abilities. Like, that's how good this ability is. It's crazy. The way he does damage, he can just shoot people. I'm pretty sure it is hit scan. It definitely does feel like it is hit scan. Don't quote me on that. His alt fire, he shoots a projectile beam at people, which if you time right as someone's coming around the corner, you can just really chunk down their HP. Obviously, most of you probably know what his ultimate does. His ultimate is a mass team res that reses anyone in the vicinity. So what you can do is you can place the ultimate in a safe spot that your team's going to be able to come back to life safely. The actual circle, the radius of the ult, is determined by where Adam goes. Place it in a safe spot and then run out as far as you need to res whoever you need to res. Obviously an insanely good ult. Your team's gonna love you. You just lost the big team fight to they won the game off of it, and then all of a sudden here comes Adam with this big ol' ult, and you can literally just like win your team the game with it. It's so good. It's obviously so good. You don't need me to tell you that. Next up, I do have the best hero in the game. It's Mantis. It's obviously Mantis. Mantis has 4 leaves. The kit centers around these 4 leaves. She can either choose to damage boost her team, heal her team, or damage boost herself, which while she's damage boosting herself, she also heals herself. I would say keep a damage boost on yourself and then keep a damage boost on a carry DPS. If you're duoed with a DPS, you definitely want to keep it on them. Let them have a field day. They'll love you for it, I promise. The thing about Mantis leaves is every time you headshot an enemy, it gives you a leaf back. So you want to kind of constantly be using these. I wouldn't recommend holding any leaves for any purpose. Maybe 1 leaf just in case you desperately need to heal someone, but they recharge so quickly, at least on the release patch of the game, that you kind of just want to constantly be hucking them out no matter what the situation is. Obviously, because of the fact that you get more leaves for headshots, it benefits you to be trying to do damage. Priority wise, I think you need to focus on making sure that your other squishies are healed up, but then after that, I would honestly prioritize damage boost. Prioritize damage boosting yourself and your DPS. Only if like you have nothing else to be doing should you be like actually like sitting there pocketing a tank to get them all the way back up. If your tank is missing 50 HP, don't waste a leaf on it, basically is what I'm saying. If you're in the middle of like a big team fight. Her ultimate is a big area of effect. Healing ult, it heals and gives your team a movement boost. Very, very, very good, obviously. Unlike Luna Snow though, you can still shoot and you can still damage boost and use your leaves while you're in your ultimate. The character's busted. The character's absolutely just insanely busted. I haven't even mentioned the fact that she has a sleep dart, basically. You throw the stun at an enemy and they basically fall asleep for like 4 or 5 seconds unless somebody wakes them up. It's just crazy. This character is nuts. This character is OP. Fun to play, yes, but I think with some nerfs, I don't know if they're like the most fun character in the game. Let's say in a world where they nerf her back to like a middle of the road support. But I don't know. We'll see. The 20th most fun hero to play in Marvel Rivals is Groot. Groot is the build character of this game. He throws walls on top of walls on top of walls at the enemies. He has a big wall that you should pretty much be always using to try to cut the enemy off. Like if you can isolate the tank, if the tank gets too far ahead of his team, you throw the wall down behind him. You absolutely screw him over, and then you get in there and you try to melee him down. He also has these smaller walls, which can be good if you're like, if you want to just throw a wall at the angle that a DPS is playing at or at the angle that a support is playing at. If you're playing against a Luna Snow that's standing in the back, you throw a mini wall there. You make her just reposition slightly while you're doing other stuff. It's fun. If you love a wall character, obviously Groot is for you. I think they did a really good job with them. The voice lines are just impeccable. I've never seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but Groot is easily my favorite hero in the game. Like how could it not be? It's Groot. The ultimate is a big tree that the enemies get stuck in. It stuns them. They get stuck all up in their roots, and you come in there and you bash them. Groot is a very simple character, but a very fun character. You could really, really hard carry team fights with walls as long as you're placing them in the right place at the right time. Obviously very fun. 19, I'm back onto the supports. We have Luna Snow. Now I do have Luna Snow over the likes of like Adam Warlock and Mantis. Personally, I find Luna Snow to be a little bit more fun than them. She is a hit scan support. A good Luna Snow Snow both is trying to heal their team and shoot the enemies like kind of all at once, right? Like you're trying to like line everyone up. So you're healing and doing damage. It's not good enough to be doing one or the other, in my opinion. And that skill I think is why I enjoyed playing her. She has a stun that she throws out. It's like a snowball. You have a snowball fight with them and you stun them. Very good. Luna Snow, by the way, if I haven't mentioned it yet, is probably the second best character in the game. Maybe you could argue Hela's better, but it really is the Mantis Luna Snow meta that we're in right now, if you want to call it that. Her shift lets you throw out little icicles instead of your primary fire, but you can't headshot with them. I think the idea is you kind of want to prioritize healing whenever you have that, but you know, it never hurts to do a little extra damage here and there. Similar to Mantis, and probably not as good as Mantis, you can kind of enable DPS that are going on flanks by throwing your snowflake on them. When one of your teammates has the snowflake and you go to heal a different one of your teammates, they get some healing. You have the snowflake on one, you heal the other one. Some of that healing is going to go to the other one, right? Pretty good. And then Luna Snow has the best ultimate in the game. She just starts dancing right in the middle of the battlefield. You could either have it on heal or damage boost for all of your allies within the circle, and it lasts for 12 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's pretty much impossible to die while you're in it. Like it's wild how good she is. Luna Snow is very powerful, but also very fun. So I have her here at 19. The 18th most fun hero in Marvel Rivals is the Incredible Hulk. When you pick Hulk, you start off as Bruce Banner, which is like the baby diva of this game. You're basically just a normal human, but at any point you can turn into the Hulk. So you should definitely do this like right away, as quick as possible. Why would you ever want to be Bruce? The Hulk smashes, bro. The Hulk smashes. They did a good job of capturing the Hulk feel, I guess, in this game. Like you mash people. If you're near your teammates, you can bubble them. The bubble applies to your teammates as well. He has a stun that is very good. A good Hulk doesn't just jump into the middle of the team and hope that the other team doesn't shoot him, because they will shoot him pretty much every time. The goal is to pick your spots and try to find like one or two enemies that are by themselves, and then you jump them, then you make your move and you mash them. The key to using Hulk ultimate is you want to jump in, use all your cooldowns, try to get as much done as you can as regular Hulk, and then you want to turn into the Ultra Hulk, which makes you even more hulkier and gives you 1500 HP for a period of time. I think this hero is one of the harder tanks to play. You have to do a lot just to get a single kill, where you can probably get more value a lot easier on a character like Magneto or Strange. I definitely don't think Hulk is bad though. I think it's just about picking your spots and really knowing this character. I think you're gonna have to put a lot of time on Hulk to be good at this hero, which to me 9 times out of 10 that correlates to a fun hero design. At 17, I have the man of the hour. I do have Jeff the Shark. Jeff is awesome. Like, come on, everyone knows Jeff is awesome. Do I even need to say it? He's a goddamn shark. Playing as Jeff the Shark is an absolutely incredible experience. You can spray down your team for heals. You can spit on the enemies like he's just great, bro. He's great. He goes underwater, and then you donna, and then you spit on him and you heal. I mean, it's great. One tip real quick, just if you really want to maximize how survivable you are on Jeff the Shark, you basically go underwater, and if you need to stall the point, you throw a bubble while you're underwater, which makes you come up. You grab the bubble, then you go right back in, and you just rinse and repeat, and you can just be the most menacing Jeff the Shark that you've ever seen. It's wild. Probably the most fun part about Jeff the Shark though is obviously the ultimate. Admittedly, it's not fun when you're on the receiving end, but if you've ever tried it, come on, it's great. You become the true menace of Jeff the Shark when you ult. You go underwater, you bite them all up, you swallow them all whole, and then you run over to the side of the map and you spit them off the map. Truly incredible that this hero is in the game. He is for sure the meme character in Marvel Rivals, but I think even ignoring the memes, they made him a really fun hero, and I love that for him. I love that for Jeff. Next up on the list is going to be Thor. Thor's entire kit revolves around his hammer, as expected. In a way, he's a little bit like the Reinhardt of this game, the guy that just runs around with the hammer and smacks on you. He can throw the hammer, which does a good chunk of damage, or he can wind the hammer up and then dash at you, which is going to be the primary way that you close the gap on the enemy so you can keep swinging on them. His ultimate is another one that just does a big area of effect damage in a big circle underneath you. It's not quite as flexible as a winner Winter Soldier or a Storm ult. The best way of using it is when you're up close to the enemies, so you do all of that damage instantly. Once you're in the air, there's no real way to like guide where you want to land it. It's still very good. Overall, Thor is just a very fun character that if you're just throwing yourself into the middle of the action, swinging your hammer, using your abilities. His F, by the way, makes you just go berserk Thor, which can be just very good at just wiping out one or two people. Like, it's just overall very fun. You feel like a hammer wielding god when you play Thor, which is, I guess, how things are meant to be. At 15, I have one of the characters that you see the least in your games. I do have Wolverine. I think despite the fact that nobody plays him, I think Wolverine is a lot of fun. Basically, the primary way to play the character is you go into the enemy team, you try to get behind them, and then you tackle someone from the other team and you bring them back to your team. And if you get a squishy, you're almost guaranteed to get the kill. But even if you get a tank, you're probably going to be able to melt that tank pretty low, if not just straight up kill him, as long as you're calling out to your team like, hey guys, I got one. Get him, get him, get him, you know? He is a melee based character. He doesn't have any ranged attacks. The more you hit the enemies, the more rage you get, which basically makes your attacks do more damage. And it's also the more damage your ult does, which is basically similar to Thor. When you press Q, it knocks up the enemies in the vicinity up in the air, and then you land on them, and it does a bunch of damage if you're at max rage. So a lot of the time, you are going to want to make sure you're pretty high on rage before ulting. His other two abilities are a dash and his E, which you howl at the enemies, and it basically just makes it so you take less damage during that time. He's just a very simple melee character. If you're consistently like tackling people and bringing them back into your team, you're going to have a ton of fun, and you're going to be able to win a lot of team fights. At 14, I have Namor. Now, I fully acknowledge that maybe most people won't agree with me on Namor. Maybe most people would say that Namor is one of the sleepier DPS to play, but personally, I really do enjoy him. He has two tentacle turrets. You throw him down, they damage the enemies, but they don't do that much damage unless you can activate Berserk mode. And you activate Berserk mode by either landing a right click or landing a headshot with your primary fire. Mainly, you just want to be throwing out these turrets as much as possible, throwing them behind the enemies so they have to turn around and shoot them, and then trying to, when your turrets are on the ground, activate them in Berserk mode as quick as possible. His primary fire, the spears, I think are one of the harder primary fires to land in the game. If you can consistently headshot with them, you're absolutely going to melt the other team. You're going to melt tanks, you're going to melt squishies, you're going to melt everyone. And then the ultimate drops a giant squid from the sky, which is, you know, it does a good burst damage. It's pretty solid. I've loved playing Namor. He's my most played hero in the game as of right now. I said it in my last video. I just like that the turrets have like an extra mechanic on top of them. And it's not just throw the turrets down and forget about them. Like you need to be activating the Berserk mode. You need to be landing headshots. I just love that there's that extra layer to him that to me makes him a very fun hero. 13 is Magneto. Magneto is my most played tank in the game. Magneto is one of the shield tanks. He has a shield that can't be broken, but operates on a meter. You have to wait for the meter to charge and the shield comes back up. But I think what makes Magneto fun is his bubbles and his right clicks, or his alternate fire. His alternate fire basically also charges up. You throw it at the enemy, it knocks them back. It's very, very strong. If you can land one directly on a squishy, it's definitely going to lead to some kills. Even if you do it on a tank, it can be valuable. And the right click slowly recharges over time, or you can pop a bubble. And if you bubble someone and then they get shot at, it's going to charge up your right click. Or if you use the bubble on yourself and it gets shot at, it'll charge your right click. So you want to be landing as many right clicks as possible in the fight, and ideally having those right clicks lead to eliminations. Being able to bubble your allies in any situation means that you control a lot of the fight. Like if your Black Panther is farming their backline, or if he's trying to, but he keeps dying in your games, and you throw a bubble on him, that's just huge impact. You could enable the Black Panther to, you know, really carry the game, or whatever DPS it is. Or if your supports are, you know, struggling to live, you can maybe try to think about throwing a bubble on them instead. Or you could just use it for yourself, which is going to be the easiest way to make sure that the bubble is taking enough damage to get yourself another right click. You can try to walk on someone, throw the knockback on them, bubble yourself, they're going to shoot you, and then you throw another right click on them, and by that point, you almost surely got a kill at that point. The ultimate is extremely hit or miss, which makes it fun to use. Magneto becomes a giant matrix where all the projectiles within the matrix get eaten up and basically transfer to the meteor's damage. The more that the other team shoots into this giant sphere, the more damage you're going to do with the ult, the higher chance you're going to land some kills with it. He's just fun. You could impact the game in so many ways while playing him. Obviously very good on the front line, but can help the back line, can kind of control everything. And I think the heroes that have their fingers in every aspect of a team fight are just some of the most fun heroes to play. And then next up, I do have Doctor Strange. Having the shield tanks back to back here, I think makes a lot of sense for me. Doctor Strange is another very fun tank. He's probably the meta tank or the character you see the most in rank play. He has a pretty basic round shield with 800 HP that you can kind of toggle on and off while you're hopping around, which is something that you can't do on Magneto. That one has a cooldown. This one, you can kind of take space with it and only shield when you actually see projectiles coming in that you need to block. You could shield hop at the other team or backwards, which I think is a really fun mechanic. I like that he's not a melee character. I like that he can actually shoot at the enemies, although admittedly it's not, you know, you're not doing a ton of damage on Doctor Strange. He has like an updraft that lets him get to high ground very quickly, which can be useful in a lot of different situations, or you can just pop it when you're about to die, at least make the other team shoot up at you instead of just running you over. His ultimate literally takes the soul out of the enemies around you in a sphere, which is very, very good. It's just one of the best stuns in the game. And when you see their souls exit their body, you can actually shoot the souls, which does damage to the player themselves. But the thing that really puts him over the top and puts him over a lot of the other tanks as far as fun goes, I think is the portal. The stuff you can do with this portal is crazy. Everyone knows that you can place the portal outside the enemy team spawn and make them jump off the map, but there's actually a play you can do that's maybe one extra layer deep. If you're playing Strange and you see the other team Strange portaling out of spawn, you can throw your portal in front of their portal so it looks like it's their Strange's portal, and then they all go off the map and you kill them that way. Obviously, you can use the portal just to get back to the fight quicker or get to the point from an angle that the other team might not be expecting or the other team might not be fully ready for. I feel like it could really mix the gameplay up, and I think it's one of the most fun abilities to use in the game. The fact that you can shoot through it is also crazy. I've seen people do like Strange portal, Iron Man ult, combo wombos, and just instantly wipe the other team. There's so many cool things, so many cool things. Strange is just very fun. 11, just outside the top 10, is gonna be Star-Lord. Star-Lord has dual wield, fully automatic pistols that if you're very accurate with, you can one clip squishies with. He has a fly ability that lets him get around the map very quickly, or you could use it in short bursts to throw off the enemy's aim, stuff like that. You could use it to position the high grounds. He has 2 flips, which lets you dodge bullets. You can't really get shot while you're flipping, but the real good way of using it is to basically shoot a clip of your gun, then flip. The flips automatically reload your weapon, so you can really keep your damage output at a very high level if you're constantly using your flips instead of reloading. His E just fires shots in all directions in like a spear. It's basically Reaper ult from Overwatch, but on a cooldown. It's obviously not as good and it doesn't heal you while you're doing it, but you know, if you need to finish off a low health enemy that's kind of hard to shoot, or if you just want to do damage to multiple people at once, using the E in those spots can be really good. You are decently vulnerable while you're using this attack, so pick your spots, but it can be very good. And the ultimate just basically gives you full auto aim, which is always fun, right? I mean, how could that not be fun? Flying above the other team and just wiping their squishies with the ultimate is very, very satisfying. Star-Lord is just a high skill, highly mechanical intensive DPS character that is just insanely fun and difficult to master. Top 10, we're in the top 10 most fun heroes in Marvel Rivals. At number 10, I do have Magic. Magic is the sword wielding character in the video game. When you swing your sword, it is very slow. Basically, the gameplay loop of Magic is that you pretty much always want to use your abilities between your swings of your sword, and that's going to keep your damage output extremely high, and it's also going to keep you from taking damage. So one thing you could do is you could swing, uppercut, swing again, and it's pretty much going to take out anyone, or you can swing, right click, swing again, which is going to do good damage. The right click also could be thrown at a decent range. You could hit someone from decently far away. She also has like an invincibility button basically that teleports you a short distance, and then after you use that invincibility, you can either choose to do a swing in a circle, or you can drop down your little demon guy that, you know, it does a little bit of damage to those that are right next to him. There's pretty much always stuff to be doing on Magic, but she's not easy to play. Trust me, it is not as easy as it looks. It's hard to close the gaps on the enemies consistently. It's hard when the other team is peeling. Let's say I dive a Luna, there's a good chance that the Mantis is going to come peel for her. It's not an easy character to get guaranteed value on. The ultimate, it makes all of her abilities better. It's good. You can definitely farm with the ult. If you're into like a sword character, if that seems appealing to you, 2. Magic should probably be your go-to. I think she's very fun. At 9, I think a lot of people think this character isn't very good, but at 9, I have Captain America. The ideal way to play Captain America is just to run around the map like a madman, like an absolute menace. If you can keep the attention of their supports or the attention of like a DPS or two, you're doing good work on Captain America. When you play this hero, you just kind of want to constantly be a nuisance, and you're going to have a lot of fun playing like that. It might not show up in the stat line, like you might end the game with like 8 eliminations while your DPS have like 3 times that, but like if you're acting as a nuisance, you can low-key hard carry some games. He basically just sprints around. Obviously is his Captain America shield, which deflects bullets. He can throw the shield at the enemies. The main thing that I was doing is just trying to run around, closing the gap on their supports, and then saving my diving strike and my dash just for when I needed to escape. I would close the gap on their supports with my sprint and then use my movement abilities to get out. If at any point anyone tries to 1v1 you in a secluded area that they can't get help, you can just 1v1 them and you just beat them up with your shield and you're probably going to win that. Very interesting character. One of the most unique play styles, I think, in the game for sure. Your team might think you're throwing if you're just in the back line. You just got to trust the process and go for it anyways. His ultimate, in true Captain America fashion, grants bonus health and movement boosts to himself and his teammates around him. He's a team player. He's a somewhat supportive tank. And just for the uniqueness factor, he had to make my top 9. At number 8, I have Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is 2 heroes in 1. Dagger is the more healing focus of the 2, and Cloak is a little bit better at doing damage. And what I was doing in my games was just using both of Dagger's abilities. Both of them help keep my team up, and I would just use both, and then I would swap to Cloak. I would throw my vulnerability in there and try to do damage with it. I would cloak my team if I needed to. Then I would swap back to Dagger. And basically, by the time you use the abilities on one character and then swap back to the other one, your abilities are basically already going to be up again. There's just so much utility because it's literally 2 characters in one that like you could really have a lot of impact over the team fights. The ultimate, they combine into one, which I think is really, really sick. And you dash through the enemies, doing damage and healing your allies. Just a extremely, extremely interesting hero that is just so cool that they're in the game. Every hero from this point on is just like, wow, this character is sick. Like, this character is so cool. At 7, I have Psylocke. Psylocke is the kind of like ninja invisibility character that kind of harasses the back line. She does a surprising amount of damage with her little daggers, and she has 2 dashes, so she's definitely very mobile as well. I don't know if there's a better hero in the game right now than Psylocke when it comes to farming the supports, farming the back line, and just kind of dealing with characters that don't have as much mobility. She can really, really punish you if you're by yourself at all. She definitely can 1v1 almost every squishy character in the game with pretty good success. Her ult stomps as well. I think if they're going to nerf anything about Psylocke, I think they should nerf the ult. I feel like it's a little on the too good side of things. It's like a guaranteed fight win when you press this ability, unless they have one of their support ults. At 6, I have the most underrated hero in the video game. I do have Iron Man. I really love a good flying character, and I feel like he just farms, bro. I feel like he farms. I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say Iron Man sucks. My favorite streamer told me that Iron Man was bad. I'm telling you right now that Iron Man is not bad. I think he's like mid. Like, don't get me wrong, he does get shit on by like Hela, but if you're playing it right, you can definitely have a chance even against a good Hela. The best way to play Iron Man isn't just to like float over top the enemy team and just hope you don't get shot at. You need to kind of be bobbing in and out using your fly, which makes you very fast. You're very zoomy with them, and you're just gonna want to weave in and out, poke from one side of the map. Once they start shooting at you, you want to fly over to the other one, poke from there, and if at any point you can get close range enough to isolate a 1v1, you just want to hit them with a right click. Ideally, you want to be taking your most important fights while you have your overdrive active. Activating the overdrive basically just makes you do more damage, and so if you can time the overdrive correctly as you're about to take an important fight, you can just guaranteed win that. And Iron Man has the best wipeout in the game. He maximum pulses, the bomb comes out, it wipes anyone that's close to it. Very good as long as it doesn't get shielded by one of the characters. But if you're aware of the enemy team's cooldowns, if you're aware of when they've used things like Magneto Shield or Magneto Bubble or like Loki Immortality Field, you know, stuff like that, the stuff that can counter your ult, you pretty much can get a guaranteed kill. Admittedly, you're not going to have the best time on Iron Man if you are getting farmed by a Hela. I love this hero design on a flying character, and I fully admit that I am biased when it comes to this hero, but he had to be in my top 6. There's no way. Moving on to the top 5. At number 5, I have the most fun tank character in the game. I have Venom. Venom is is crazy, bro. The movement you can do on him is just wild. He is a dive tank. He gets around the map very quickly with his Venom swing, and then you can dive onto people, and it does good damage on them when you land and knocks them up. His right click unleashes his tentacles on the enemies, which basically gets them stuck to you, and if they don't get out of your tentacles by the time it ends, they will take some extra damage. He has some shields to make himself more survivable. The lower you are when you use the shields, the more shields they're going to give you. His ult lets you go underground. It's just another escape tool to use, and when you pop out, you do a decent chunk of damage, especially if you're on a squishy or something like that. But I think what I love about Venom the most, and this might sound crazy, is actually his primary fire. I love that it's not just, you know, an auto aim gun that you can only do body shots with or something like that. You know, I'm thinking like a Winston Tesla cannon from Overwatch. It doesn't do like crazy damage unless you're headshotting. If you're headshotting, you can chunk down someone, right? So like the combo wombo is to like swing in, dive on someone, and then like headshot them immediately after with as much as you can. Obviously that takes a ton of skill and a ton of hero mastery, but at the end of the day, that's why he's so high on the list, because that's crazy, bro. That's crazy, the stuff you can do on this character. Such a fun tank. If I could pick any tank to be really good at, it would be Venom, just because he's such a blast to play. At 4, I have the top rated support in the game, the character that I've been playing the most recently. I do have Loki. I feel like they've done a really good job of adding like the mischief of it all, of Loki, and adding that to the actual gameplay of the kit. Loki can place 2 different clones. The clones do whatever you do, which is just the fact that this isn't an FPS game is just wild to me. So if you're healing your teammate, then your clones are healing your teammate. If you're shooting the enemy, then the clones are shooting the enemy. Obviously, they have to have line of sight with the target that you're shooting, so it's important to place them in like, you know, decent spots. Loki has an invisibility that when you press it, it makes another clone where you just were, adding more to the mischief factor. And at any point, let's say I place a clone on the high ground, let's say I get dove by a Spider-Man or something, I can swap to the clone and I'm safe from, you know, whatever's on me. Just a really fun kit, but obviously my favorite part of the kit is the ultimate ability. I love a duplicate ult ability. I was a big fan of Echo in Overwatch, and I think it's really fun in this game as well. Loki's ult lets you shapeshift into any enemy or any one of your teammates, and you instantly get their ultimate ability. The possibilities with this are endless. You can duplicate a support for the support ult. You can duplicate like a Mantis and instantly pop Mantis ult and maybe save your whole team with that. Or you can duplicate like a Hulk, turn into the Hulk, you know, jump into their team, try to do as much Hulking as you can, and then turn into Mega Hulk because you have his ultimate on top of that. And then even if you die from that, then you're still Bruce and you could probably live. And by that point, you're probably back to Loki, which you could throw down your invulnerability button again, which by the way, Loki has an invulnerability basically. It's just like a little zone around Loki that converts all damage taken to healing. And if you have clones down at the time, the vulnerability applies under the clones as well. So you can like really spread these across a point if you wanted to. Dude, I love Loki. One of the most fun supports I've ever played in any video game. Like if you really want to master Loki, you probably should at least know how to play every hero in the game in case you need to duplicate them. You know, at least the ones that are like very good dupe targets. You never know what situation you might be in game. It definitely benefits you to at least be able to play every character in the game, which is just crazy. I love Loki. Loki is the 4th most fun character in the game. At 3, I have Winter Soldier. I don't know every Marvel character ever. Can't say I'm like a Marvel addict or anything like that. I didn't know who Winter Soldier was. When I saw him, I thought he was gonna be like, oh yeah, that's the basic shooting character in this game. But Winter Soldier is anything but that. He shoots a little projectile and he only has 3 bullets, but all 3 of your cooldowns reloads your weapon. So if you really want to maximize output, you're shooting your 3 bullets and then you're trying to hook someone in, or you're throwing your electrical charge thing that you throw at people, or you can try to uppercut someone. When they're in the air, they become a very vulnerable target and a very easy shot for you to hit. Winter Soldier's kit just flows together so nicely. I think they've done a great job of like mending together like almost like a fighting character with an FPS character, just making it all flow together so nicely. The ultimate is crazy, bro. You get to slam on the enemies, obviously insanely fun. And when you're farming them and you're farming ults and you're killing the whole team and you're going again. I mean, come on, that's peak gaming right there. That's literally peak gaming. Number 2, I have Spider-Man. It wouldn't feel right to not have Spider-Man this high. If you played Spider-Man games as a kid, which admittedly Obviously, I have not. And you love the fantasy of just swinging around from building to building, finding your perfect time to strike. Spider-Man is for you. He is so fast-paced and so fun. It's insane. And I'm not even like a big Spider-Man fan. Like I don't even like it like that. But like I have to admit that this character is just crazy fun. He has 3 grapples that he can pretty much always string together and just get across the map in an instant. He is a melee-based character at his core, but he does have stickies that he can throw at people, which combines well with his hook ability. The hook by default just hooks people in, almost like a Bucky hook. But if you've landed your sticky first and then you hook, it'll hook you to them. And so there's this like insane one-shot combo that you can do, which when you land in game, feels like some magic shit. Where you stick someone, you hook, you swing, you uppercut, you stick again, and then you melee him to finish him off. Just incredible. The hero would legitimately take hundreds, if not 1,000 hours to master. That's the level of complexity that Spider-Man has. And I think they've done just a ridiculously good job at like implementing Spider-Man into a PvP game. But he's not my number one because my number one is the most fun hero in the game. I went back and forth on this. All 4 of my top 4 kind of kept going back and forth between Loki and Winter Soldier and Spider-Man. But ultimately, my number one is Black Panther. I love Black Panther. What can I say? He's a very fun hero. When I went to make this list, I thought about it for a long time, and I'm not sure what my justification was going to be for putting Black Panther on, but when I really thought back to the games that I've played and how I actually felt about them, the most fun I've had in this game is playing Black Panther. Panther's kit revolves around his dash and trying to keep that dash up and ready to go at all times. If you land any of his abilities, his spear, his kick, or his ultimate ability, it applies an effect to the enemy. And if you dash through any enemy that has this effect on them, it resets your dash. So that means you can basically chain together dash after dash after dash. If you ability dash, ability dash, ability dash, you could just keep on dashing several times through the enemy team until they're all dead. Like, it's insane. It's so fun. Panther is one of the most fun heroes I've played in any video game ever, if not number one. That's the level we're talking about here. Couldn't recommend trying him out more, especially if you're like a Genji player from the original Overwatch and you enjoyed the dash reset mechanic on that character. The dash reset on Panther is like Genji dash on steroids. So fun. But that's my list. That's all 33 heroes ranked by how fun they are. This video took me a while to make. Obviously, I wanted to make sure that I played every hero and I really got the grasp of what it felt like to play those heroes, at least at like a decent level. You know what I mean? Let me know if you disagree with anything major. What's your favorite hero to play in Marvel Rivals? Thank you guys for watching.